Hello, DePauw, and hello, world. Welcome to The Outlook, a show that looks at current and political events happening around the world in ways that educate and involve students here at DePauw. And now, introducing your host, Haley Menendez.
Hello, and thank you. I would like to formally welcome you to our first episode of The Outlook. Today, we'll be looking at former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and the role he played in the Soviet Union. With the help of our guest speaker, Professor Sunil, who specializes in teaching political science here at DePauw. We'll be discussing some of Gorbachev's significance in our history. We'll also look at why this matters not only to the world today, but students here at DePauw. First, let's unpack Gorbachev, who he is, and how his death is relevant to us today. Mikhail Gorbachev was the president of the Soviet Union from 1990 to 1991. And the General Secretary of the Communist Party from the Soviet Union from 1985 until 1991. For those of you who are curious as to what the Soviet Union is and why it's important to the U.S., I'll provide a little background. The Soviet Union was a transcontinental country that spanned much of Eurasia from 1922 until 1991. This included Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and Transcaucasia, which is comprised of Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. This then grew into 15 combined republics, which became a worldwide superpower. The Soviet Union ruled with an iron fist and exercised total control, not only over the country, but also over its constituent states. This closeness and secrecy brought in elements of corruption and poor efficiency within political structure, not to mention the massive expense in maintaining military infrastructure, as well as massive aid and venture programs that ran across countries to promote communist ideologies and to contain capitalist influence. With the competing ideologies, communist versus capitalist, with both the U.S. and the Soviet Union, they both sought to firmly establish their systems in the countries they controlled and hoped to extend their influence, which brings us to the Cold War. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the United States, which was known as the Eastern Bloc, and the Soviet Union, which was known as the Western Bloc, as well as their respected allies. The Eastern Bloc confronted the Western Bloc, with lateral grouping becoming largely united in 1949 under NATO, and the former grouping becoming largely united in 1955 under Warsaw Pact. To summarize up the next 60 years, we have tension between the Soviet Union and the United States, and historical events such as the space race, the invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. But then in the mid-1980s, the last Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, sought to reform the country through his policies of glasnost and perestroika. These policies were important when introducing transparency and reconstructing the new political and economic ideals. Also, fun fact, Mikhail Gorbachev came to DePauw in 2005 to speak on environmental protection. If you're interested and want to take a look, you can watch the video in the link down below. Now we'll go to our guest speaker, Professor Neil, to talk more about Gorbachev and how his death is prevalent to the present day. Hello, my name is Haley Menendez, and I'm here with
Sunil Sahu. I'm a professor of political science here. I have been teaching here since 1988. That makes it my 35th year.
Congrats.
Teaching at DePauw University.
All right, well, today we're just going to be talking about former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. And we just want to ask you a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
So first, could you tell me a little bit about Mikhail, like some of his background? What did he do as his
Well, he was a Marxist-Leninist leader. He was a communist leader in a communist country. And, he was selected by his colleagues. There are no elections in communist countries. So basically, it is the leadership who selects who is going to be the top leader. So he came through that process, but once he was the top leader, and he came in the middle of 1980s, as the top leader in the Soviet Union, the country was economically in very bad shape. It was more or less like a developing country, a third world country. And he had some ideas, and he introduced those ideas, and somehow they did not work very well.
Okay, thank you. And how what he did was important? How was his two policy changes important?
I mean, they are very important. I mean, those changes, the introduction of perestroika and glasnost, that is openness, and reform. Openness, that is political openness. Reform is economic reform that transformed the Soviet Union, and also it changed the world. I mean, he ended the Cold War. There was, an attempted coup in 1991 which failed, and after that the Soviet Union disintegrated. So actually on December 31, 1991, Soviet Union formally ended.
And then how will his death be affecting us today, especially with the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia?
I mean, I will say that he has never given any public statements, but whatever I know from the writings of people who knew him, he was not very happy with the war in Ukraine. If anything, he thought that Putin has undone some of the things that he had done.
Right.
Okay, so, but he kept his views to himself. He did not publicly criticize it.
So we were told that he actually came here to DePauw in 2005. Can you tell us a little bit about what he talked about when he was here at DePauw?
Yeah, I have some recollection, although I don't recall everything that he talked in 2005. But he was a little bit disillusioned by that time. He did not really see things happening the way in which he had really thought things will change in Europe. NATO alliance, he thought that will not remain relevant in the post-Cold War period. NATO was still there. So he was a little bit disappointed with the lack of change, or whatever he was witnessing happening in Europe. Okay, he was not against a reunification of two Germanys, but he wanted that to be a slow process. But the German Chancellor pushed it hard, and it happened very fast. So yes, I mean, he was not fully satisfied with the changes that he saw in Europe, and certainly within his own country, things were not good.
Exactly. Okay. And was it weird for a former Soviet Union leader to come to the United States and talk at a school?
No, it is not. I mean, we have invited. Okay, we have this very nice program in which we invite prominent leaders. So we had, since I have been here, there have been 3 British Prime Ministers who have come here. Yes, Prime Minister of Pakistan came here, Benazir Bhutto. I was actually her campus host, so I got to know her. So that was a fringe benefit of teaching at DePauw. Okay, that I got to spend whole day with Benazir Bhutto, and actually I ended up driving her to the airport. And of course, I couldn't do that to Gorbachev, by that time things were very different. Security concerns are different by that time. So by the time Gorbachev came, things had changed a lot. Okay, and there was a lot more security for such distinguished speakers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you talking to us today.
Thank you so much. Okay, and good luck.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
All right. And now we will go to our interviewer for today, who will be interviewing some of you DePauw students to test your knowledge on the Soviet Union and Gorbachev.
So, first name, my name is Ross Gardner. What's your name?
I'm Justin McCoy.
All right. So, do you know who this person is?
It's like a Soviet guy.
Soviet?
Yeah.
What? How'd you know that?
I've seen this face before, but I don't know. Joe Rogan.
I'm joking.
Give me like a specific fact that you know about the Soviet Union.
Okay, well, it ended when Gorbachev came to power and not decommunist, it basically turned it more into democracy.
So you know who Gorbachev is, but you don't know who this is. Who is this person?
President?
This is
Very trademark birthmark on his forehead.
You know what Who him? This guy?
Is that Gorbachev?
Yes.
Did he develop that spot later in life?
Apparently. Do y'all know anything about the Cold War and what happened?
Cold War, yeah.
What do you guys know?
It was a war between like the
NATO nations?
yeah. their relations. Like there was let's say the friends of the U.S. versus the friends of Russia.
And so, do you know anything about the Cold War and like what happened between the United States and the Soviet Union?
Yeah, a fair bit.
All right, tell me what you know a little bit.
So it was a kind of a soft conflict between the two nations, where basically they were both building arms as an arm race, where they're both kind of competing to see who could get the most nukes, who could get the most weapons, who could gain the most allies, and try to shift global politics in either favor of communism or capitalism during the time period.
Thank you, and welcome back to The Outlook. I would like to thank our guest speaker, Professor Sunil, for his professional view on Mikhail Gorbachev today. Has been very informational. However, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining. I'm Haley Menendez.
Please tune in and join us next Monday at 7 p.m. Have a great night. This is The Outlook.